All right. Well, I just thought I'd go ahead and do a quick video update on my latest project that I started exactly 1 week today. My previous game, I found that there was another game that was like identical to what I wanted to make. It was uncanny how similar the design of their game was to what I had envisioned for mine. So I thought, in lieu of continuing developing that game, I was just going to cut my losses and move on to my next idea, which was actually what I wanted to do originally. I just felt it was too large of a project to take on at that time. I wanted to do something a little bit smaller in scope. But after some consideration and the fact that the game I was working on is no longer an option in my mind, I decided to go ahead and get started working on this one. So to start with, it's going to be a voxel game. So the first step I need to take is to create a voxel engine, and I've been working on that, sort of. I haven't actually got to the voxel part yet. But what I have gotten is infinite terrain. And the neat thing is, if you're unfamiliar, there are issues with floating point precision if you get too far away from 0, 0. So right now I'm at 0, 0. If I travel to 1 million units away in any direction, then my floating point math is going to be less accurate than it would be here at 0, 0. So that's a problem. In a game with infinite terrain, players can travel as far as they want in any direction to a point, to the end of the integer precision. Each chunk currently is 16 units by 16 units. So I calculated the distance to be like 2,700 times longer than the diameter of the Earth, or something like that. So you could travel 2,700 and some Earths before before it wraps around and you start at the other end. But I digress. So what I've done is I've done a system where you can move around. If you notice the camera position up in the information box at the top right corner, it shows you the camera position. Right now we're at x 0.74, y 26.5, and z negative 1.55. Now, if I move, you see those numbers moving in accordance. You can see my axis there. You can't see the red, which is going in the x direction, but so if I travel around this chunk, I'm staying, there. But if you notice the x is going up. We're at 4.5. Now we're at 6. And if I go over past the 8, which would be half of the chunk size, we go back up to negative 5. So the world wraps you around, or the world shifts with you. So you are never beyond 16 units from center. I can fly around here. So therefore, precision in the world and everything is not going to be a problem, because everything shifts around you. And all the item positions will have two aspects. One, the chunk it belongs in, and two, the location within that chunk. So precision is just not going to be a problem. And I've also got chunks dynamically loading and background threads. So if you'll see up the information box, there are counts for the number of chunks that need loading, the number of chunks that are waiting to be meshed, and then the chunks that need freed. So if I travel in this direction, you'll see those numbers go up. And you can see in the distance, I have my draw distance set in the fog set to where you can barely see the edge. And if I look behind me and travel backwards, you can see them unloading. So for each one of these chunks, there's a vertex array, VBO, VAO, if you're familiar with OpenGL, being created. And for the ones that are unloaded, you can see the chunks need freed. That will gradually go down. There's currently, I believe, a 30-second wait. That way, if you go back and forth between chunks, you're not constantly unloading, reloading. And in the final game, that will be set a bit higher than 30 seconds, because there's really, you won't often be traveling as fast as I'm traveling here. You know, you're going to be walking or maybe in a vehicle or something, but you won't be traveling this fast very often. I'm also designing this with multiplayer in mind, because I do plan on having this be a multiplayer game. It's not something I've done before, but I've done a lot of study on it. I have done socket work before. So basically, I have two different components. I have a player chunk manager that basically keeps track of this chunk grid. It knows which chunks are in which location, and it requests when when you move beyond and the chunk position you're in changes, it requests from the server the new chunk, and it tells the server, I no longer need this particular chunk. The ones that are unloading, you know, when you travel, like those ones, it's telling the server I no longer need these, and the server is marking it as released. It keeps a reference count of how many player chunk managers have the chunk loaded. That way, when you know, in a multiplayer server, if there's a chunk that no players are around anymore, then it no longer needs to stay in the server memory. So the server will keep it in memory for a short period of time in case, you know, players come in to save on disk access or whatever, and that should work. I feel designing this whole system with networking in mind from the start is the best idea, as well as doing all this tricky stuff with chunk loading and unloading and everything. So this has been my process over about the course of a week, which I'm happy with that progress. I'm going to try to do updates, these video updates once a week. We'll see. Some weeks I won't be able to work on it. You know, this is part-time, so maybe someday I'll be able to work on it full-time, but that's a long ways off from now. But anyways, that's it for now. This coming week I plan on getting the actual voxel generation of mesh based on what voxels are where. Probably just start out with a simple height map to begin with, and go from there. But yeah, the whole the framework is set up where that'll just plug in and work. I won't have to worry about you know, the chunk loading and unloading anymore. That's pretty well done. But that's it for now, and I will put out another update hopefully next week. I'm not sure when I'm going to be streaming the work on this game. Right now it's tedious, and there's not a whole lot of visual feedback in some of the stuff I'm working on. I may stream some of the voxel generating stuff, since that might be interesting. But yep, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.